and and everything that we do, all experiences that we have, we should understand as being these people who have these histories, are engaging with a surrounding, with a situation, and this surrounding situation can trigger or support or scaffold memories. And I think often that is what we try to do by interventions, is basically give people some starting points for their own memorizing of things that are relevant in the situation. And of course, then it matters a lot the precise location of where you do the intervention. So in case of the bunker is a space that was there in the Second World War, and here in the Second World War there were soldiers there. And everyone in the Netherlands has this shared background of knowing that this war took place and that soldiers used to go to bunkers. So by opening it up, you can anticipate that people will start, reliving these ideas on the past and basically have their own unique experience. But I think the way people experience memories is of course very individually shaped, because every person has a different history and a different background. So it's very much about spatial experience. And I think that spatial experiences, they have part of it is shaped by memories, but it's not just memories that happen when you are going into the bunker. Say you're also fantasizing, you're also showing to the friend with who you're visiting the material details. So spatial experience is a more holistic thing, of which memory is a part. And then I want to add one more thing, and then Ronald probably wants to add other things as well. So when we make a project, we always do a lot of research on the history. So we always investigate very well what took actually place on that particular site that we are working on. And then we look at the building, but we also look at the larger scale. So the bunker is interesting because it's part of a whole defense line which is 80 kilometers long. And because it's a monument, or it became a monument, and because it became nominated for UNESCO. And all these intangible or invisible aspects are part of the context in which people encounter the site that you're working on, or the intervention or the artwork that you're trying to make.
And what is nostalgia in this case?
Nostalgia? Yeah, I think it's a very Russian word. I find it very difficult to say, but I've never thought so much of nostalgia, but there's some kind of sweet memories of the past involved. And perhaps partly longing back to them. But I'm not an expert on nostalgia.
I think that we could discuss it after another presentation, but I think it probably might be something as a difference. The difference between memory and nostalgia could be the same difference as preservation and propaganda. That nostalgia is a deliberate attitude towards past, something that you intentionally trying to reanimate, recover. But let's
Is there anything you want to add to the answers on the questions?
There are two different things. I think hardcore heritage is going to explain something about our vision which goes beyond preservation. That's very important. But before that, I want to tell something about Venice. It's good to take in mind what for us was really important in Venice, that Eric didn't tell it really clear. You didn't mention that it was about governmental buildings. So what we said in the Netherlands, we've all been paying taxes for these kind of buildings, for these churches, schools, hospitals, bunkers, fortresses, etc., etc. And you are talking about a small country with 10,000 vacant buildings, and these buildings they have very specific qualities. They are in the middle of the city. They are not somewhere like boring offices along the highway, empty, vacant from kind of developer. No, they are governmentally owned. We have been paying for it. And our approach on the Venice Biennale was more proactive. It was not about preservation. We said we have all these monuments. And of course it's important to think about reallocation on the long term. But on the short term, we're talking about 10,000 buildings. The waiting time, the average is 5 years before something is reallocated. So we are talking about 50,000 years of waiting time only in the Netherlands for buildings which are waiting for something. So we came up with a proactive statement to use these buildings for knowledge development in the Netherlands, because there is a lack of space. We are a very small country, of course, densely populated. So we wanted to use these buildings for knowledge development and made a connection to the political agenda in the Netherlands. Don't give us money, but give us the keys for the meantime to use these buildings in a very smart way. That was actually the message behind VKTNL. So there's something different than preservation, and then something that goes beyond preservation, what is additional to the stuff we are talking about, is that I will also read it so that you can translate it very easily. So it really represents a new way of thinking about dealing with heritage and monuments. It's about, through deliberate deconstruction or destruction, radical changes in the context, and seemingly contradictory additions, a new field of tension arises between past, present and future. That's where it is about. So, of course, the bunker was for us really a starting moment in this way of thinking. You can read it as a build manifesto. You cut through a monument. It was already a monument. It was a lot of discussion to go through this element. So, in our work, in the work of RAAAF, the things you don't see are even as important as the things you see. You don't know that it was a monument before. And so, after these 5 years, we got it done, and it was being it became a governmental monument. So, and now it's becoming UNESCO monument. So it's increasing in value while you are destructing it. So this is actually the essence of hardcore heritage, to be busy or to think about the future, how we can bring heritage to the future, to deal with it in a completely different way. So that now is the essence of hardcore heritage, and I can also give some other examples of it. Let's see, we go down. For example, secret operation is something like such an addition I was talking about. Another project, a military airbase, it was a Cold War airbase, the largest Cold War airbase on the other side of the planet, of course, in Europe, the largest one. And the Americans stayed here for what was about 20-30 years, I think. So, but we were asked at a certain moment, this vacant airbase, what are you going to do with it? We got the question, would it be interesting to do something with one of the strike fighter shelters? But you have to imagine this airbase is enormous. So we are talking about a little spot over here, strike fighter shelter, and there's a whole shelter park of 17 of this kind of strike fighter shelters. This enormous runaway. So it is a giant area. So is it useful to make a piece of furniture there? That was actually the question. We thought it should be something different. You should create a new kind of base and make use of this runaway of 3 kilometers long. Because they wanted to demolish it at that time. So we thought, how are we going to connect the shelter to this runaway, which is 500 meters ahead? These were the strike fighters which were in there before, during the Cold War. And what we always do, and that's also, I want to show this because it's also the way we work, we just start on location. It's always difficult. First you are fascinated by the building itself or by a vacant plot or whatever. And then you have to come up with new ideas. Then it becomes complicated, of course, and difficult. So we started working on location together with Frank Havenmans, experimenting for a year and made all kinds of different models. And I just show one very simple moment in the process of model making. That was actually this one when we turned the strike fighter upside down in the shelter. We thought you should make something that relates itself to the shelter in the sense of form. And here you see where you start with the strike fighter and transform it to a new kind of object. And this object should be mobile. That was actually the idea, that you could go to the runway and that you make a new kind of working base on the military airbase. You can work with 10 people inside this object. So the doors open and this object comes out of the shelter, and then you have a place to work, roof, or a table is coming from out of the ceiling, and it transforms into a working space. It's not a solution for a whole airbase, but it's a kind of new point because it's a strategic intervention that sets new developments in motion. Actually, all our work is about this, making one point on the map and try to set in motion a new way of thinking, spatial thinking models. You can also call it like this. So, and another example of this way of thinking, because I can tell a whole evening about one project, I'm not going to do that, but I want to show you a scala in this way of thinking. So, after image, a sugar refinery, at a certain moment was kind of, in the European Union, they decided not to produce sugar in these rich countries anymore. They said you should do this abroad in Brazil and this kind of other kind of countries. So they quit all these factories, and there was a kind of a commitment in Europe that they wanted to demolish them as well. So not just enabled to function, but also to demolish them. So we thought this is really strange. So what happened in the end? It became kind of I have no other image in between. But anyhow, the whole area was demolished, and there was just one place left over there. Here you see the former silos, enormous sugar silos where they kept the sugar for a long time. So we thought, we were asked, can you do something with this area? And it's actually a strange question. When everything is gone, you have to imagine it's a whole bare, empty field, except this building which was still there. So, but we started, we dived into the archives, that's what we often do, and found this, this drawing, and about the fundaments which are still there. And there are many hundreds of pillars. Here there were already 500 pillars of an old sugar silo. And we thought, hey, it would be interesting, this kind of industrial Rome hidden under the ground. Can we reveal this in one way or another? So our proposal was to remove the soil, and suddenly, so you have to imagine this silo was on top of this, and reveal these 500 pillars under the ground. So you make an aspect of the environment visible that you usually don't see. And it also tells something about the Netherlands, which is constructed on the sea level, which means that you have millions and millions and millions of pillars. Amsterdam is just a pillar city, it's a whole forest where the city is constructed on. So again, a thinking model about cultural heritage. In this case, it's not like the bunker that you go through the object, but you're revealing that you are actually changing the context of an object. Well, secret operation is really a new kind of addition to. So these are different aspects of dealing with this vision of hardcore heritage. So this is the model of it. Here we split it just so that you can go through it, not that we want to split it, but that you see how the spaces work inside. I can also tell a lot about that. We are not going to do that, but yeah, it reveals this typical building. What we do while we are digging it, we are putting the ground on top of it because the water will press everything up. So if you keep it low, then you get a kind of thick new roof on top of it. Completely new world. So this is in general what we can say about hardcore heritage. We can talk about it for 3 days, but I think this is enough to have an interesting discussion together with what Eric had been saying already. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So we are looking forward to questions. So,
I think that we probably could start with maybe some questions from the audience if those questions are dealing with certain, I don't know, uncertainties in the projects. If you want to make something clear in what our guests were telling, and after that we could move to a discussion on terms.
So I have a question for Eric. You mentioned that while you were developing the plans for the bunker, there were competing plans, not everyone agreed. Maybe you can tell a little bit more about what other people wanted. Did they want just to keep the bunker, have a plaque there, or did they want to restore it, or what was your competition?
Well, actually, for the bunker, there was no competition, so perhaps I gave the wrong impression there. No, we took the initiative ourselves to cut the bunker. We had been working there on the site for another project, and we came up with the idea of cutting it along the way. So there was no competition there. No.
No, actually we did that project. I haven't been talking about it tonight because it's another project again. We made the fortress in the same, what do you call it, in the same region actually, and afterwards we thought we can come up with a proposal for one of the bunkers because they are all through the Netherlands, spread out, so we thought that at a certain moment we should come up with a proposal. It was an unsolicited proposal, but we raised money ourselves actually together with the municipality of Culemborg in Utrecht. Yeah. Yeah. That's what we often do with almost all of our projects.
But so probably there was some maybe arguments about what your proposition, maybe other ideas, maybe some people weren't happy with your proposal.
Yeah, we have people who are not happy with our proposals. So, yeah.
One of the most interesting aspects is, of course, the bats that were living there, because the bats are protected in the Netherlands, and they like to live in bunkers. So we needed to convince the people who prefer bats to stay alive. Actually, we like them to stay alive ourselves as well. We needed to come up with a good plan for basically finding other housing for the bats, but we didn't need to build that ourselves.
Yeah, and there was also resistance. There were, of course, organizations dealing with monuments to save this type of buildings. But the good thing is that we did so many things on this project and on all the, you could say, all the reinforced concrete elements of the new Dutch waterline, that we, at that moment, we had much more knowledge than lots of other people. So we really dived into it. So we also had the good arguments to say, yeah, there are 399 other ones which you can still use if you want to. So we had a strong position in the sense of knowledge, and that helped us with the discussions, these monument parties, to convince them in the end. But it took 5 years. So, yeah. Sorry?
What took 5 years?
It took 5 years in between the idea and and the realization. Yeah.
The process.
That took a month. Yeah. Yeah. So that was actually.
So
yeah, you can see
bureaucracy is more difficult than cutting.
You can see it on the background. So that took 5 months, over a month. Yeah. Yeah. Cutting through bureaucracy is much more difficult. Yeah. 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 The guys who have to make it just do it. So, although there was just one company in the Netherlands who could fix this project, so and we have made now a very large scale project, and Deltawerk // We will show this tomorrow night in the garage. We didn't want to show everything. This is our latest and our largest project, because otherwise people won't come tomorrow anymore. And then we show also more movies tomorrow night. So it will be a different lecture, and also more about fascinations relations, so people also feel the need to come tomorrow. But we learned a lot there to actually scale it up to the next level. Yeah, you'll see that tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah?
Yeah, I have a question. I would like to get back to this Wake at NL project. Here in Russia, some of the experts say that one of the best ways to preserve something, I mean the building or the practice, is to make a new meaning of it, or socio-culturally reprogram the building, for example. And you said that what you propose to do with these vacant buildings is to use it in a smart way. Can you please explain, elaborate a bit what is your proposal?
So we made a very specific proposal. Ronald explained it well at the first question, I think. So the proposal is not to reallocate it for a different purpose, but our proposal was to use this month or year or 5 years in which people are having all their meetings about what to do with it in the future, to use these vacant buildings temporarily for attracting talent from abroad for what we call knowledge development. So people could, artists and scientists could come to the Netherlands and get one of the best available buildings, but temporarily. And then after the temporary period, they would need to move to a different building. So the temporary reuse was the focus.
And it's also the temporary reuse is often underestimated, also as a kind of period to discover the possibilities of an environment. What we do with our work is being there on site. Then you learn what the real possibilities are. Then you know how it relates to itself, to its context, in a functional way. Is there a railway station? How is it related to other universities in the environment, or let's say wood shops, whatever. So that's also what the Dutch Atlas of Vacancy, which was related to this project, showed that it is this big book where Eric was talking about, showed that every single building has a particular context. The same building in Moscow is not the same building as in St. Petersburg or Murmansk or whatever. It's related to a context, and this context is always different. So what we try to do is not to solve all the world problems, not to fill in all the programs, but to show the potential of every single building, and that's what we made visible. And it's especially, of course, about a way of thinking. And so it was focusing on the temporary reuse, but we are convinced that often you explore during this period also the real potential for a longer term, in a different way than just commercial purpose. We all know that we can use restaurants inside, and that's just the easy stuff, filling it up. It is an old garage, let's name it the garage, restaurant garage, or whatever. Yeah, I mean, that's what we see everywhere, but we want to come up with more smart proposals. And that you don't know that in advance, and that's also why we avoided pre-programming things, but show potentials. That's what our work in generally is about. Yeah.